Bueno, bienvenidos y bienvenidas a esta tercera jornada de la lengua extranjera como vehículo de inclusión y desarrollo de la ciudadanía. Este año es la primera versión virtual y bueno, esto nos permite diferentes modos de comunicarnos y de vincularnos. Desde el año 2018, con el profesorado de inglés del Ipes Paulo Freire, compartimos y abrimos nuestras cátedras con la comunidad docente a fin de hacer visible el trabajo que los docentes en formación llevan adelante en sus espacios curriculares, con una visión desde la democratización de la enseñanza de la lengua extranjera, con rigor académico y con la convicción de que el cambio y la reflexión debe comenzar en la formación docente. Los estudiantes que están hoy aquí, los que vinieron antes que ellos, dejan huella todos los días en las escuelas de la ciudad, marcando la diferencia, abriendo el mundo de oportunidades a los estudiantes. ¿Qué significa aprender otra lengua? Quiero agradecer profundamente a las autoridades del Ipes Paulo Freire, a mis colegas, a los estudiantes y a los disertantes que hoy nos acompañan, porque con su trabajo, su apoyo incondicional y su presencia nos ayudan a resistir, a comunicar, a aprender y a enseñar con pasión, a realizar acciones como las de hoy, que demuestran que todos tenemos derecho a una educación pública de calidad, inclusiva y justa. Esta jornada es un regalo que el profesorado de inglés del Ipes Paulo Freire le hace a la comunidad educativa de la provincia de Tierra del Fuego, a los estudiantes y en esta nueva modalidad a todos y a todas los y las que se interesen por la propuesta. Además de un modo productivo de demostrar a la jurisdicción y a sus gobernantes lo necesario e imprescindible que el profesorado de inglés en el Ipes Paulo Freire, que es que el profesorado de inglés en el Ipes Paulo Freire continúe. Porque además de posicionamientos en cuanto a la formación de profesionales críticos y comprometidos con sus comunidades, se desarrollan en la lengua, ¿sí?, como futuros docentes. Tal y como dice Paulo Freire, la educación como práctica de la libertad, al contrario de aquella que es práctica de la dominación, implica la negación del hombre abstracto, aislado, suelto, desligado del mundo, así como la negación del mundo como una realidad ausente de los hombres. Pero bueno, bienvenidos, y me gustaría, en este momento, nombré a las autoridades del Ipes. Me gustaría que Alicia, la licenciada Alicia Holguín, quien es la rectora de la casa de estudios que nos alberga, al profesorado de inglés, si puede, por favor, darnos unas palabras.
Bueno, buenas tardes, buenas noches, según desde donde estén acompañándonos. Quiero darles la bienvenida a todos. Gracias a Ana Paula por hacer la apertura de este evento, que es una fuerte impronta del profesorado de inglés en el instituto, que viene marcando todos los años con sus jornadas de capacitación y de propuestas didácticas vinculadas a la enseñanza de la lengua extranjera. Ana Paula contaba un poco la impronta de este profesorado en el Ipes Paulo Freire. Como el nombre que llevamos es una mochila bastante pesada en términos de poder transformar las realidades. Cuando iniciábamos este profesorado veíamos que la enseñanza del inglés generalmente estaba vinculada a sectores bastante elitistas de la sociedad. Como docentes freirianos nos pusimos a cuestionar entonces por qué había un reducido universo de editoriales que llegaban a la provincia y esos editoriales como que marcaban el currículum de enseñanza en las instituciones públicas y privadas respecto de la lengua extranjera. Fue un esfuerzo muy grande, una ruptura, yo diría hasta casi epistemológica respecto de qué es la lengua y la garantía de derechos para todos. Por eso Ana Paula nos habla sobre la democratización de la enseñanza del inglés. Y fuertemente la impronta tiene que ver con que nuestros estudiantes puedan producir sus propios materiales para la enseñanza contextualizados hacia la cultura local. La cultura local a nivel ciudad, provincia, país y, ¿por qué no, continente? Bueno, y sobre todo en virtud de que nuestra provincia es bicontinental y estamos en estas latitudes tan australes. Para no hacer más extensa la apertura, quiero felicitar a la organización, agradecer a todo el equipo técnico, que sé que los hacemos correr todo el tiempo cuando les pedimos de un día para el otro que nos asistan con un evento. Ayer tuvimos otro y vamos a seguir la semana que viene con varias propuestas, por suerte, porque al tener 9 carreras, cada profesorado también va generando propuestas para estudiantes y docentes. Celebro la participación de tanta gente de distintos lugares del país y del mundo que acompañen esta propuesta del profesorado de inglés y bueno, queda abierta así e inaugurada esta jornada de trabajo que sea auspiciosa y provechosa para todos. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Bueno, en nuestro próximo momento vamos a seguir con la licenciada Eugenia Carrión Cantón. Sí. Okay, so this is the moment to switch from Spanish, if everybody's okay with that. This is it, I'm sorry. It had to happen at one moment or the other, okay. So we invite, yes, licenciada Eugenia Carrión Cantón, yes, to carry out her workshop. Eugenia is a qualified EFL educator with a licentiate diploma in English literature from Universidad Nacional de Córdoba, a postgraduate diploma in educational management from Flaxo, and she is currently attending an MA in education at Universidad Nacional de Quilmes. She has taught extensively in the field of EFL, cultural studies, and critical citizenship at different levels. She has also presented locally and internationally and published in international journals. She is the former Vice Chancellor at Ipes Paulo Freire Teacher Training College and a curriculum developer for primary, secondary, and teacher education in Tierra del Fuego AIS. Presently, she is in charge of professional development at Tierra del Fuego AIS Ministry of Education. So we welcome you, Eugenia, to carry out your workshop. Getting Involved Matters, Developing Critical Citizenship in ELT.
Well, can you hear me well? Yes. Okay, great, fantastic. Well, I'm so happy to be here. Yeah, and of course, I'm a little bit nervous because such an event devotes a lot of commitment from all the teachers and the students and all the rest of the world that is here with us today. I'm really amazed because thanks to technology, we can be all together even though we are so far away one from the other. So first of all, thank you, Ipes Paulo Freire, for making this real, this 3rd edition, of this great event that I hope that we can continue, let's say, putting forward and working together next year and the following, and why not the rest of the time. So I am going to share screen just to start with my job today. Okay, there we are. And let me see, there we are. So as Ana Paula mentioned, this presentation that I will try to turn into a workshop is called Getting Involved Matters, Developing Critical Citizenship in ELT. So before we start, I would like to share with you quite an ambitious agenda that I hope I can carry out in this time that is allotted. So today, I hope that we can discuss some concepts and frames of reference regarding critical citizenship, and also to reflect upon the importance of critical citizenship in education. Also to establish the relationship between critical citizenship in ELT, and to share some ways of incorporating critical citizenship in the ESL classroom. And finally, if we have the time, I will make an invitation, right, to design ESL lessons and projects incorporating critical citizenship. So let's see if we can make it. Keep your finger crossed. So let's see. As I thought that this would be easier for all of us if we all participate in the way we can, of course, because we are too many. I believe that the best way to participate is going to be through the chat box. So the first activity will be on to you, and it's just to write down what comes to your mind when you think about critical citizenship. The question says, which words do you associate critical citizenship with? So let's see if I can have some answers in the chat box. Okay, Mariela, social commitment, definitely. What other ideas come to your mind when you think about critical citizenship? Otherness, identity, power, fantastic, good. Care, I love that one. Thank you, Darío. Yes, care. What else? Responsibility, definitely, right? Environment, of course. Lovely answers, questions. It implies compromise, empathy, justice, respect. Wow, lots of ideas. Great, fantastic. Yes, you are right. Fantastic answers. Thank you so much. Anna, identity, good. And of course, this is true. So, oh, I made a mistake. I would like to start this presentation with some, let me see, some quotes that frame my work from the very beginning. And of course, as these jornadas are from Instituto Paulo Freire, and because I admire Paulo Freire a lot because of his positioning and because he was a man that made his standards and beliefs into concrete actions, the first quotation is from him. And he says, to read the word and to read the world, identifying and emphasizing this idea of working at two different levels, moving beyond the object of study and expanding onto the context. And the second quotation I would like to share with you is from Lancashire and Nobles. These are the authors of the book New Literacies. They focus on the development of digital education. And they focus on another aspect that is very important whenever we develop critical citizenship. That is, the becoming critical, they say, must be based on a reflection that is consciously guided by the intention to change understanding of the world, and in the same process to change the world we inhabit. Something interesting about these authors is that they focus on the possibilities to change, but also the working out onto the context, the present context. And I found that quite interesting. And of course, considering these two quotations that I had just mentioned, I will move over to you again, right, with two other questions that come to my mind as well. How important developing critical citizenship is in the ESL classroom, as let's say, in your opinion, and how often do we incorporate critical citizenship in your lessons, right, in your English lessons? Let's see, what comes to your mind after reading and listening to these quotes? Do you consider critical citizenship important in our English lessons? Do we devote some time for that to happen? Well, sometimes yes, some other times maybe not so often, or maybe we are willing to, but we don't know exactly how to. So let's see some of your answers. Essential, Omar, to question the status quo. Good, that's it. And not only to criticize it, to make a change, to be committed to it. Good, fantastic. Important and necessary, definitely important and necessary. And it is. And sometimes the question is, well, how do we contribute to the development of that critical citizenship? I'm not sure whether all the time, but every time we have a chance, I would say. So, just to move forward, I would like to concentrate this presentation on one of the main authors I've been studying since I started working with this area of interest onto critical citizenship. That is Raewyn Connell, that is an Australian sociologist who has been developing citizenship, curricular justice in education for more than 30 years. So it is a professional that I truly admire and that I've learned a lot. The more I read her, the more I learn about the whole topic. Raewyn Connell sustained that critical citizenship, it's a concept that is made up of many other concepts, actually main three concepts. She says that it is made up of social justice, of citizenship, and a concept that was, let's say, made up, that was, developed by her, that is the concept of good education. For Raewyn Connell and most of authors like Cornel West, for example, social justice is the notion that all people in a society deserve fair and equitable rights, opportunities, and access to resources. And from that frame, right, all the opportunities in access and development, right, should be sustained. How are we doing? So far, so good? Yes? Thumbs up? Good. All right. And in relation to the concept of citizenship, to expand on that, I wanted to add some other voices to the voice, Connell's voice, and I incorporated two authors that work for UNESCO. The first one is a French politician, that is Jacques Delors, and the second one is a Canadian philosopher, Kaimilka, who says that citizenship, in this quote, as you can read, they say that citizenship is in the center of international debate at that time about human development, education, and the nature of humankind. Schools are entitled, they say, to work towards the education of good citizens, able to critically participate in democratic constructions of societies with a sense of identity, able to work with others and to make responsible decisions about themselves and the environment. Quite interesting, this quote that I decided to include in this presentation because they put up these ideas that you mentioned before, the idea of including the environment and to moving forward from the criticism, right? From being critical towards the society, but also to the development of good citizens, in the sense that these good citizens should participate in this democratic construction. So I found this quite interesting to expand on this notion that we are studying a little bit. For Connell, moving on this concept of citizenship, Connell explains that the concept of citizenship is, let's say, is described in two phases that she says that sharply contrast except in education. She explains that on the one hand, citizenship is presented as a principle of regulation and social, I would say, constraining of citizens into standardized relations of obedience and order life. And on the other hand, citizenship is described, appears, as a claim of right, as a demand by the excluded for the access of participation. It is education, the arena in which these apparently opposing concepts go together. And it is through schooling and through education that these two sides or two faces, right, of the same coin can be learned or intertwined, we may say. Moving on, just to move on to the third concept, just to recap a little bit, Codell mentions that critical citizenship was made up of social justice, citizenship, and good education, she says. Well, Raewyn Connell defines good education when she explains that when we are educated, we engage in forming and nurturing capacities for practice, she says. Those capacities might be individual, related to every single person or every single student, in this case, in the classroom, or collaborative. This means capacities of the whole society. So for her, education works at these two different dimensions, at the individual and at the collective dimension. So this notion of what education is for her, this, as I mentioned before, the nurturing of capacities for practice, leads to this new term that is called, what she calls, good education. Connell explains that good education is always practical. This means that it is related to the real world in which it is involved in all its aspects. It is also sustainable, and that is that it is concerned with the welfare of the society over time. It is also pro-social, and that is related to, it is concerned, it is committed to the social justice and useful knowledge of the, let's say, community that is immersed for the benefit of the whole community. And of course, it is creative. And that is related to what she mentioned, the nature of learning. I like this because when she mentions the nature of learning, well, you may ask, well, but what would be the nature of that learning, right? If there is a nature. Well, according to the author, that nature of learning is related to that construction that the student makes of structures and actions and knowledge that enable these new practices to happen. And that the teacher at this moment is not a controller of the process. On the contrary, it is a companion, a facilitator of that process to happen. So that means that education necessarily should have a wider scope when we study education, when we see education. And it doesn't matter whether you teach English or math or physics or whatever it is, the subjects you are teaching. So this means that it operates across the whole perspective of social life. And that is very interesting because it isn't, let's say, good education is not something narrow. Much on the contrary, it is not something separated of that social life. Much on the contrary, it is totally immersed in that social life. And that's why it is so important. And in terms of formation, it provides and it determines, it collaborates, it develops competent citizens. We say that when we refer to competent citizens, we, as we mentioned in the previous quotation, we mentioned, active citizens involved with their communities, proactive, ready to bring solutions and to collaborate with the object of study, with the subject they are learning, and also with the rest of the community they are immersed in. So in Raewyn Connell's view, and of course I totally agree with her, education, because of all these reasons, is inherently democratic. So now I will leave this question to you. I will show you this Padlet, and then I will share this site with you, not to work now, but just to think about this later on. This is a collaborative Padlet. We have been working together with some other teachers just to answer this question: how do we contribute to the development of critical citizens in the EFL classroom? This is not for now. I'm not going to make you work on this right now, but just to reflect and to think about this later on. We can create and collaborate with this. This is just an invitation. So the question comes again, right? What is this relationship between critical citizenship and the English language teaching, right? The teaching of English, when I say. Well, I have some answers. I don't have all the answers, and I'm happy about that. I'm sure you have many others, right? But well, critical citizenship should be part of the mission of every educator at school. And these skills that I've just jotted down, right, because there are many others, develop the ability to work for critical citizenship. And they are problem solving, critical thinking, collaboration, and also perseverance. And the next question that comes to our mind whenever we analyze all these topics or we put these ideas together is, how are EFL teachers qualified to teach critical citizenship in the classroom? This is a question that I've been, let's say, dealing with for a long time. And the answer is, we are not. We are not qualified. We've never been qualified. If we think about initial teacher education, right? Of course not. Because critical citizenship in English language teaching depends on the educator's role in society. In Argentina, when we think about la Ley de Educación Nacional, la 26.206, and the national documents related to that, well, they explain that in the teaching programs, they demand from educators multidimensional and inclusive paradigms whenever we teach a foreign language, not only English. And they go about in 3 different axes: the learning axis, the intercultural axis, and the citizenship axis. So the law, or the national law of education, poses a question over to us, makes an invitation, demands from us that we have, let's say, a committed role towards the subject we are teaching in this case. Well, I will show you some examples. Here, I've got lots of pictures because one of my aims is not only to preach about critical citizenship and to convince you about that, but also to show you what we do every day at Ipes Paulo Freire at the end of the world. Well, this is a picture from last year event. You know that we have been doing this event since 2018. Last year, we had a break. Well, you know why, due to the pandemic. But to understand what the situation was like, it was very difficult for us. But that is a picture from 2019. Actually, Darío Vanegas, that is here with us, was also part of this event last year. Well, and that's last year. There is Griselda Beacon as well. You can see our students, let's say all the teachers from the city. This is an event we do every year in order to not only to show what we do at Ipes, but also to work together and to reflect upon our everyday practices in relation to teaching English as a foreign language. And of course, to expand on the knowledge that teaching English as a foreign language is related to expand and widen the scope of democracy in the access, in the resources, and also in the opportunities for learning. I will show you some other examples. Well, here you've got some other examples in which many of you are here, the ones who are sharing this evening today. We've got examples of teachers and students working together in defense of English program state teacher education as Ipes. That was the picture that is on the right. That was at the moment we received the piece of news that the English program was closed at Ipes. Then we've got the picture from that we got together in 2018 at FAPI in defense of teacher training colleges all over the country. And the same is in IATEFL when we had the opportunity to be in England at the same year. As I said before, teaching critical citizenship is not in the classroom, is not a body of knowledge. It is not something that you learn at the teaching training college. But it is an approach. It is an approach to materials, to students, to rules and norms, to technology. It is a manner of understanding the world. I will show you some examples that I found not only useful, but I think that they are the means through which we do critical citizenship in issues at Ipes Paulo Freire. We do it through the arts, through mentoring, and through community projects. I'm sure that you will find out many other ways of, let's say, going through critical citizenship into concrete, let's say, projects, classes, even activities, right? I think that these are the best frames for us to work on that. Let's see. Up to here, how is it going? Are you all sleeping already? Because I see some faces on it. Fine? Okay, good. Let me know. All right. So I will show you the first context, that is the arts. Well, some examples from last year's presentation. Well, this is in the use of literature. Well, I entitled this literature to include, and this is an example of the use of story for very young children that is called Stand Tall, Molly Lou Mello. That was a story that was suggested by one of our former Fulbrighter students, helping teachers. And we use this story specifically to work with students with autism. As you can see here, you have pictures from the interpretation of Molly Lou Mello in Las Jornadas from last year, from 2018. In this case, this story was used specifically at secondary school to work with the whole class and with some students who suffer from autism, mainly to work in teaching English with this scaffolding of literature, specifically to move from the object to the picture and into the word. That was that specific, I would say, concretion that students who suffer autism have some problems with. Basically, the aims we had, and this was, let's say, a class that we worked at secondary school, and then that we organized at last jornada. The main aims, as you can see, were to recognize vocabulary related to physical appearance, to recognize and use vocabulary related to personality, to identify parts of the body, to reflect upon the importance of being unique and accepting the other differences. Okay, so as you can see from what I have just mentioned, nothing different from a common language lesson. Well, maybe a little twist. Some of the activities that we decided to incorporate were activities like the use of post-it blocks for students to label and stick on the partners all the body parts they knew, just to tackle known vocabulary, I would say. Also telling story with digital visual support. Besides, to enumerate these 8 new items of vocabulary, we were very strict in the number of vocabulary, the items of vocabulary we wanted to teach, not only because that is what is suggested, but also because otherwise not all the students were going to be included in the classroom. So to concentrate on 4 related to physical appearance and 4 concentrated on expressions about personality. And also reading the productions aloud reflects upon the importance of accepting others by answering questions. These were some of the activities we worked with. I highly recommend this story. This is a very simple story that can help us a lot to work about physical and let's say physical features and also personality. I would like to stop here on one activity that we decided to work to carry out. There is a very simple Venn diagram that I'm sure that you recognize, and the ones that are my age and a little bit older than me, right, find it quite familiar. Okay, and this was a Venn diagram to recognize similarities and differences. Very simple activity. This activity was just to write down on one side what was Molly like, right? Some ideas for the students to jot down about her, and some ideas related to a description of themselves, physical description, and something related to their personality. At the moment in which this activity was carried out, right, we found out with great surprise that many, let's say, adjectives and nouns that they incorporated in Molly, right, also reflected themselves. And the interesting thing happens when the students could see, right, that what was in the middle, right, there were many coincidences there in the middle. And maybe if she was short or hairy, or she had big eyes. Well, I also have big eyes. Or she was shy. I am shy. Well, this was a fantastic, very simple activity that helped us teachers and in-service teachers as well to reflect upon physical appearance, diversity, otherness, in the moment in which we listen to others giving their own opinions that were in English and in Spanish, of course, and also whenever asking some questions about the Molly, the story, and the description as well. Okay. The second instance related to the use of the art is called literature to unveil the other. I love this word, to unveil. And as you can see there, if my GIF is working properly, you can see that picture that is moving, that is golden. And that is related to, we decided to work with a video clip, with a song. There is no time, I think, to share the video with you, but I will let you know about the video. The song is called Gold, and is by the singer Brit Nicole. I have to say, as I said to people from Mexico last week, I had no idea who Brit Nicole was. I have to be honest, but thanks to my daughter, my eldest daughter, I discovered her, and I found out that it's a great singer. And well, this video that is about gold, right, helped me, and I invite you to Google it and to look for it. Invite me and open that door that was necessary to work with teenagers. In this case, to unveil the other. That was a different context. At Ipes Paulo Freire, we have been working with Fundación Pescar for some years, let's say more than 5 years already. And this is a program, as you can read there, seeks to foster the global development of young people, motivating them to adopt new routines, attitudes of coexistence and citizenship, with the aim of recovering the meaning of the work culture to promote full social and labor insertion, and also to provide personal and vocational training to young people from vulnerable contexts. So there it was the English department delivering English lessons at Fundación Pescar. And I have to say proudly that many students, they are students from secondary school. Many of them have become our students at teacher training college, not only of the Department of English, but biology and also history. So I'm very happy about that. Some of the activities that we thought with this video clip that I mentioned was to frame a unit, to frame this video, I would say, in a unit that was called Dreams, in which students have the opportunity to speak about their goals, their plans for the future, and visions. That there are 3 songs that we worked with this, not only the one with by Brittany Cole, but also we work with Fireworks, and well, there you got some other options. That was the context. Oh, sorry. In terms of language, students work with the future, they use will, and the vocabulary that they use was related to their own plans in different areas of their lives. It was very simple activity, but just to contextualize that activity with their desires, their dreams, and to narrow it down to, let's say, the function and the grammar that we wanted to teach was enough for them to be able to express in English. And the last example from the area of the arts is this literature to exercise freedom. And that was also thanks to a Fulbrighter, the last Fulbrighter we had at Ipes Paulo Freire in 2019. There was Caitlin Caster, that she suggested Julian as a mermaid, and well, Griselda Deacon said that she discovered that story thanks to her, and that is true in these jornadas from last year. And it says there, the soothing power of the arts. I love that. Well, as you can see here, you can see the puppets. The aims we had towards this story was to encourage students to develop their creativity while providing sex ed topics, to contribute to the development of language skills in real context, then a total concentration on the presentation of the practice of the language item, and also to reflect upon inclusion. Some of the activities there, there she is, Caitlin is there, telling the story to all of us in 2019. Well, some of the activities were telling story with digital visual support, presenting items of vocabulary related to clothes, physical appearance, feelings, and expressions about personality, reading the productions aloud and reflect upon the importance of accepting others by answering some questions. I would like to show you the resources. They are very humble resources. They are paper puppets, and we made a very simple version of the story. So later on, we can share this version with you. We have no problem about that. So this means that you can tackle this, this piece of literature in a very simplified way, right? Where the language is not a problem, but much on the contrary, it's a contribution to the expansion of these 2 dimensions we mentioned some minutes ago. So let's move on. The second, remember that some minutes ago I mentioned that we tackle citizenship issues, critical citizenship issues, by means of the arts, mentoring, and community projects. Well, this is our mentoring issue. Well, as you can see there, it says Ipes students at collaborative work at FAPI. Well, that was the last project we presented in FAPI, and we are very happy to say that we have a new project that has been accepted to be presented at FAPI 2021. So this is not going to be the last any longer. Well, that was 2019. That was a paper that we decided to write and to present together with Cecilia Sassone and her students. There you can see Mauro. Right, Mauro is going to talk in some minutes. Right, it was a paper that we developed that was called "The Puppet as a Metaphor: The Roles of Puppetry in Teacher Education," and we were very happy to share this research with some other students from a different teaching training college, and of course to talk about the experience, to present the experience at such a great event as it is the FAPI Congress. Well, that was it. That was our puppets. Were not puppets, but pop-up stories, and that was the way in which we worked towards this paper, right? That was in the frame, let's say, there is a subject that is called EDI, Espacios de Definición Institucional, in which we work with storytelling and also with volunteering. So there we decided to move from poetry into pop-up stories. Here you can see some other examples, right? Ipes students and teachers at FAPI and IATEFL in different instances. We have been enrolling and traveling and presenting at FAPI mainly since 2012, every year with different students all together, not only students coming with us, but also students presenting with teachers, and well, in many different projects. Another great project was the one that we could carry out thanks to Darío Vanegas. That was a project Students Write, in which he was able to collect the writing of essays, stories, and different formats of writing from students from Patagonia. And well, there we were presenting our work. Let's say he was there at IATEFL. And of course, also showing some work we have been carried out with the community. There was this project about gamification project. There was a project in which we decided to collaborate with the town hall, delivering English lessons for the community in the, let's say, context of gamification for children, right, at primary school. So these are some of the examples of community. Okay, and the last example will be about community projects. And here, as I mentioned some minutes ago, we've got within the teaching training college, we've got these subjects that are called EDIs, Espacios de Definición Institucional. They change. They are not all the time the same, and they are changed according to the needs of the, let's say, the development of the teachers to be. In this case, one of the subjects that I'm in charge is responsabilidad social a través de proyectos de intervención. As you can see there, this is a 4th year workshop at the English teaching program. Some of the aims are there to promote social responsibility practice aimed at developing the concept of social commitment of teaching program students, to strengthen the preparation of future teachers through knowledge and the development of social co-responsibility, to promote participation, to provide opportunities for teaching training institutions to strengthen collaborative work networks between teacher training colleges and the schools for which they train teachers. Well, some of the projects we have been carrying out are gamification to teach English, the language camp. Every year we decide to take primary or secondary courses from state and private education to a different context in which we spend a whole day in English. We prepare the whole context, passport activities, games, and let's say frame on a theme. And we share this linguistic camp with students from 4th to 6th grade in primary or from 1st to 3rd year at secondary education. Another example would be CEDI, that is El Centro de Idiomas from Ipes Paulo Freire, in which students work voluntarily and collaboratively every Saturday with teachers for the community. Maps and audio guides for blind people. I will show you, this was a great project we participated in. Special projects in the communities, game, resources, libraries. Well, this is TDF al Tacto. That was the last project, well, the project we participated face-to-face, I would say, right? Students from the biology program decided to make maps and audio guides for blind students. So in the creation of these maps, they asked for the collaboration. Actually, the students from English offer the collaboration to translate these maps not only in Braille, but also in English. And also, right, to record the audio guides in English. These audio guides accompany the perception of the maps. So we had some classes together there. We can see students, English students, the students of the teaching English program, just experiencing, touching the maps. You can see them, they are touching the maps, and the biology students teaching us how to write in Braille. Also teaching English to older adults. There was also a project we carried out with a town hall. These were people from what we call in Spanish antiguos pobladores, from the city, right? And we shared some English lessons, and there they told us and they taught us about the community and Rio Grande, right, in the past. And of course, CEDI, right, that is one picture from the students of English from the community, that they are not students of the teaching program, and the students that were presenting on a podcast project for the community. Some of the groups decided to create podcasts in English, contextualized with a local color, I would say, to provide, to be given to the libraries, to the, let's say, libraries all over the city. So there, for example, they taught about the past with special characters of the city. La Botera, for example, or El Frigorífico, or well, different concepts. Well, and this is a very special project for me and for all of us, because this happened last year. And I would like to invite all of you just to type onto the website to find out what Aprendo en Casa is. Last year, you know that, I mean, the pandemic surprised us, I would say shocked us. And well, and in a way to react to that and to be pro-social and active and to collaborate with equitable access of opportunities and resources for everyone, the Ministry of Education decided, together with Ipes Paulo Freire, because I have to say that it was an idea from Ipes Paulo Freire to create a platform in which all the levels of education were gathered, and in which 134 teachers from the province, most of us, I would say us, because I was writing as well, teachers from Ipes Paulo Freire wrote lessons for primary and secondary level of all the subjects, including English. Within this, considering, I would say, critical citizenship and also local context. So if you go to Aprendo en Casa, formaciondigital.tdf.gov.ar, you will find out that all the lessons are there for you to enjoy, to use as resources, to adapt, to adopt, to take it as a useful, if you find them useful, resource to work with your students. So thank you, Ipes, because your contribution was a great contribution, and that is a, let's say, free platform for everybody to serve it. So there is always a triggering element when, and you can make it a difference considering a piece of art, a collaborative project.
Eugenia, estás muteada.
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Could you listen the last part or not? The one about more or less? Oh my God. You couldn't listen that, could you?
Until after next. Hello, I'm Eugenia Carrion.
Hello.
Couldn't
All right. Okay. Okay. I would go about that. So I will repeat this part then. So I wanted to say that this was a great project, that it happened as a reaction to the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. It was an idea from Ipes Paulo Freire, and the Ministry of Education put all the resources necessary for that to happen. And it was the Ipes Paulo Freire, and I would say thanks to Alicia Holguín and the coordinators of careers and the whole rectorado from Ipes Paulo Freire, that we gathered 134 teachers from all levels of education to write lessons for primary and secondary level of all the subjects, including English. Of course, with that perspective of the development of critical citizenship, considering the English lessons, I would say, and the local context. So it was a way of, as I was saying before, I thought that you could listen to that, to guarantee, to provide, as we mentioned some minutes ago about the definition of social justice, equitable access to resources, opportunities to all students, in this case, who didn't have the opportunity of attend school at that time. The classes are available. You can just Google formaciondigital.tdf.gov.ar, and you will find out these lessons to adopt, to adapt, to use as resources, to criticize, to improve, as you wish. They are all there for all of you to work with. So sorry for the repetition. So I was saying that there is always a triggering element, and that you can make this difference out of a piece of art, a collaborative project, an opportunity to share all you have learned. We can move from a poem to a campaign. As you can see there, that was the first class in which we decided to turn poems into pop-up books. And we had a great guest, that there was Professor Godoy, that is an expert in handcrafts and all that, and she taught us everything that we needed to learn to make pop-up books. We can move from a subject to a community project, to expand that subject into something concrete for the community. And we can move from an opportunity to a conference. That was last year conference. Every November, the Ministry of Education provides a free conference that is called Congreso Internacional de Educación e Inclusión desde el Sur. That was the edition 2020, in which teachers from Ipes Paulo Freire, right, presented on that experience about Aprendo en Casa. So there is the question, are you ready, right? And you may say, ready, what for? Well, so I promised that I would make an invitation for designing, right, courses, projects, activities with a twist of critical citizenship. Well, whenever you think about that, well, this is just a map for you to consider what you need, right? But it might help you a little bit. Whenever you plan a lesson, an activity, a project, you consider not only the aims, but also the topics and the theme in which that project or lesson would be embedded, I would say. The linguistic content, the functions, the skills, but also you should consider that triggering elements that can make the difference and expand onto the development of critical citizenship. That is related to a format, for example, a workshop, an activity, a project, whatever it is, related to solving a problem, the development of critical thinking, fostering collaboration, working on perseverance. But you should also consider to relate all this that you have already about the linguistic elements, to relate it with other subjects, to consider and to expand that lesson, that project, that activity into something meaningful. If the students you're teaching can relate it to something else with some other content. And as well, I will move this because I cannot see. Wait a second. Of course, to make these three elements of critical citizenship that Raywin Collins mentioned visible. Is my project, my activity, my lesson, right? Can this activity, lesson, or project contribute to the development of social justice? How can this contribute to the development of citizenship? In which way? Is it pro-social? Is it sustainable? Is it creative? Well, remember that we mentioned all this about good education. How can it contribute to good education? In which way? It doesn't mean that you should consider all the three elements all the time in all your lessons, but there is one that highlights over the others. So that is the thing you should pay attention to. Of course, to strike a balance, because you're teaching English, but to expand that to be able to work at the two dimensions, at the individual level for the development of let's say, the skills in the language you're teaching, and of course, at the social level to expand, to have an impact in the society, in the social life, we would say. So again, right here, we've got some ideas from a Padlet that I will share with all of you, right, to write down your experiences, your ideas, your feelings about all this. And if you are willing to, as a final activity, if you think that maybe we could try this, right, you can think about a group of real students in your teaching training college, in your community, in your province, and design some EFL activity lesson project considering these elements we have just discussed. Decide on the topic and limit it, of course, because if the topic is education, you cannot teach about the whole education, but maybe you can concentrate on a real problem that is going on about education in my town. For example, nowadays with the context of pandemic, going hybrid, working on face-to-face and online, let's say the delivery of classes. Well, you might think of many other things. Define your linguistic content, relate it to a social problem, link it to a social context or to your community, decide on the format. What I would like to make this concrete through the arts, by means of mentoring, by using a community, let's say, project, or maybe some other format. that you may include. Put it into practice. That is something very important. Projects, for me, the most rewarding part of a project is when we can record the experience, when we can reflect upon the experience. Otherwise, they are great ideas that we can find out in books. And we know a lot about books, and we have been reading many books. So it's high time, I would say, that we put on hands-on experiences. And of course, to have fun. That is the most important thing for all of us, I believe, to learn. So just rounding off a little bit, I would say that it's high time that we learn that language matters and that getting involved matters too. It is to discover new dimensions of the foreign language we teach, to empower our students with English as a foreign language, to stand for their opinion, to talk about their current issues and about the world concerns, to take actions and to transform the world. Otherwise, why is it that we are teaching? We teach to transform the world, isn't it? Mainly when we think about critically about the world that surrounds us and that surrounds our own students, we are working on the development of engaged citizens. And also when we are able to show and students to recognize these questions of injustice, this collaborates with the idea of developing engaged citizens, committed citizens, not only those citizens that criticize what they don't like, but the ones that take action. And as we mentioned some minutes ago, these skills, critical thinking, leadership, political participation, civic engagement, commitment to their community, well, these skills foster critical citizenship, and they are developed by critical citizenship as well. So I would say that it's up to us to listen to our students' voices. And this requires that we are more flexible, more creative, braver enough to accept that students could rebel against us. And sometimes that they push us to question and reflect upon our own assumptions. That is great. So some concluding thoughts, I would say. I don't dare to say conclusion. Teaching ESL should always be bigger than teaching grammar and vocabulary. It should be about teaching people English to change the world for the better. Teaching a language will always be a political act, and it is up to us to provide our students with critical citizenship experiences to get them involved in their own communities. And I would like to finish this presentation with this quote that we mentioned some minutes ago by Raywin Connell. And let me tell you that the picture that you see on the right is the picture of last Congreso de Educación e Inclusión desde el Sur. The last we had the opportunity to have face-to-face, in which Ana Paula Pino and I had the opportunity to make interpretation for this great sociologist. It was a fantastic experience. And she says, as we mentioned some minutes ago, that education is formation and nurturing of capacities for practice. They might be individual, related to the students in the classroom, or collective of the whole society. Education always works at both levels. So for me, it's up to here. Thank you very much for this time. I'm sure that you have lots of questions, and if you do, I'm ready to answer the ones I can. And otherwise, you can write me to my emails and to my contacts. So I will stop sharing, and thank you so much for this great opportunity to share this.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Eugenia, very, very much for sharing with us and to inspire us always to share the experiences that we are through together at Ipes Paulo Freire, and to use them to teach others and to learn from you. So thank you so much for your words, for your whole workshop. And we promise to then share in the chat the links of the Padlet and the different links and web pages that you shared during your presentation. Thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome, Anna. It's a pleasure for me. I will leave the presentation for all of you, so you will receive it. Don't worry.
Thank you. Okay, so Eugenia in her presentation asked, are you ready? And I am a teacher at Ipes Paulo Freire, and I teach applied linguistics, or Didáctica Específica 3. And the answer for me, for Eugenia, was yes, we are absolutely ready. We want to do this. We want to push our students to go beyond the theory and explore, play around, and go through this idea of critical citizenships. Hence, our presentation today. This presentation, the students are mostly in charge of it. Yes, they are students at the 4th year of the teacher training college, and we have prepared. I can see that you had just a couple of years ago with a similar project. Students also shared their work in this jornada. So the project that we came up with answering Eugenia's question was this project work as an approach to teaching to foster citizenship and ICC, meaning intercultural communicative competence, yes, or intercultural communicative citizenship. All right, and I would like to add there that we are very much inspired by our city as a whole, and our students will be saying how and why, but that was the trigger for us, the city of Rio Grande, as Eugenia was talking about, what triggers, yes, for you to go beyond and think. So I'm going to share this way of working with our students with project work, not just as a theoretical background, but as put it in action as well. All right. So a little bit of the theoretical framework, yes, because, well, even though we want to innovate and create, we want to have a strong connection to theory. So the students that are going to be with me today are Maria Mesa, yes, she's around there, yeah. Cristian Gonzalez and Dante Cufia. So before we start, thank you, because I've been driving them crazy for a couple of weeks, but they're worth it, absolutely worth it. So thank you, students. All right. So here we are. Chris, yes, you start.
Okay. So good evening to everyone. First of all, why using project work? Yes. Well, as indicated by the name, project work involves students refining their language skills through the completion of projects. In this case, they will focus on real life context, yes? So, it is student-centered. So, our purpose as teacher is to offer and to provide support and guidance, yes? It is cooperative. It will require students to negotiate for meaning with their instructors, their peers, or even outside participants, depending, of course, on the assignment, yes? It integrates skills authentically because it mirrors, as mentioned before, real life tasks. Well, it always ends in an end product, yes? At the very end of the project, students will share their work with each other and reflect on the process they used to complete this final project and the overall product, yes? And finally, project work is empowering and motivating as it creates experts from the students. It allows students to go beyond practicing the language, increasing their abilities to English outside of the classroom in authentic settings. Yes? Okay, moving on. Your microphone,
Okay,
Anna.
thank you. Yes, thank you,
Yeah,
Christian.
of course.
So intercultural communicative competence or citizenship, here this is a concept, as you probably know already, that was started with a common European framework, where the idea of learning another language and communicating immediately people became aware of the fact that language was not enough, that we needed to share our culture and we needed to learn about other cultures in order for real communication to happen, is and to really learn about ourselves and about others. So this idea of intercultural awareness, understanding our world of origin, yes, where we come from, to be able to talk about it to target communities and to understand them better. And this means that we need to have the language in order to be able to do so. Students need to learn the language and they need to be able to handle the four skills in order to communicate. But on the other hand, they need critical competence. They need to require a self-identity and this ability to accept and interpret who they are in order to accept and interpret a new culture. So this was the basis for this project, together with some of the topics that Eugenia mentioned. We had the pleasure of having Eugenia in one of our classes. Yes, so we were looking for inspiration for developing a project, and she joined us. And these four basic ideas that she shared with us we explored in order for them to be present in the project we're going to tell you about in a minute. This idea that in order to discuss and include social justice in the ESL or ESL classroom, the classroom has to transcend language. The lesson has to go beyond learning the language. We need it, but we need to go beyond. In order to learn something new, yes, about our own community through language. So this is an important key of inclusion, to develop a sense of identity and to be proud of who you are and where you belong. I said before, the inspiration for today's presentation is our city, the city of Rio Grande. And you are aware of the history of the number of the population is migrant. They come from different parts of the country. And now we have more and more generations of Fuegians who are born here, but we still have to develop this idea that this is where I'm from. I am from, for example, the city of Córdoba or the city of Buenos Aires or the city of Tucumán. I am from Rio Grande and I need to really be proud of where I am from. So this was the idea that we wanted to explore students with this project. Okay, so Now, we looked at the inspiration, we looked at the approach of project work, and now we're going to look at, Eugenia mentioned them a little bit, yes, the local curriculum de diseño curricular jurisdiccional. Maria, please, is your turn.
Yes. Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Maria Mesa. I'm currently a 4-year student at TTC Ipes Paulo Freire. And this project was thought for 4th-year students from secondary schools. And it is supported by what is required from us by the Argentinian educational law, NAPS, Núcleos de Aprendizajes Prioritarios, and the Diseño Curricular Jurisdiccional. According to our diseño curricular, this project will follow the communicative language teaching approach, utilizing contextualized sequences of activities. Regarding to the 3 axes, eje cultural literario, eje interdisciplinario, y el eje comunicativo, their usage is mandatory. So let me explain what they are about. El eje comunicativo, it is related to the 4th skills integration through meaningful and communicative situations. Then, el trabajo interdisciplinario. This axe promotes the use of language as a means of building communication and knowledge through different subjects, in this case, citizenship. From PBL and linking other areas, students will obtain scaffolding and meaning in a contextualized way. And then we have the el eje cultural. It's not news that stories, songs, videos, and other cultural expressions help in learning a second language. This act incorporates cultural expressions as a means of learning a foreign language. Besides, it promotes thinking skills and contextualizes them in a memorable way. Thank you. Se quedaron, sorry about much. What happened with the slides?
The slides are not moving.
Was a delay?
Sorry, it's my connection.
Okay. There was a delay. Don't worry, Ana Paula. Do I have to repeat my presentation or not? Just tell me.
No, it's okay. Where is the slide operator?
It's me, but it's not working.
He's the best. Thank you.
I'm in slide, slide 10, or you need to go to another one, another specific one, Maria. You don't remember. It's okay. Are we here?
Okay, yes.
Yes, we are here.
Start?
Don't worry.
Okay. All right. Good evening. My name is Dante Cufia, and I'm also a student at Ipes English faculty. As my classmates mentioned, we haven't made this project just to comply with didactics subject, but also with the purpose of honoring our city. Our city and its 100 years. And we are so happy to be able to study in Rio Grande and sharing our work with you. Okay, so moving on. Here are the aims for the project. Please show the next slide, Anna.
I have,
but okay. Yeah, it's there. Okay, thank you. Okay, so on one hand, general aims are to foster task responsibility, imagination, and curiosity, to appreciate other cultures and one's own, and to promote the use of the presented vocabulary and language structures to describe Rio Grande in the past. And on the other hand, aims will be to take part in communicative exchanges about former Rio Grande, using audiovisual materials as a trigger for dialogues and discussions, and to exploit guided writing by providing learners with the vocabulary and language structures needed to carry out the final product and share it with their classmates. Okay, so in a minute, we'll see the next slide. Okay,
please wait.
Here we go. Okay, so this is a 4-day project. This means we planned different objectives for each day. On day 1, students will be able to recognize and select lexical items that will be useful to compare places in Rio Grande today and in the past. On day 2, students will be able to use lexical items given in reading and writing. And on day 3, students will be able to identify and use verbs, simple past of the verb to be, and regular verbs, affirmative and negative forms, in order to describe Rio Grande in the past. Finally, on day 4, students will be able to write a letter to their future self and to present it orally to the class. Thank you very much.
Okay. And now, Christian, please,
yes,
it's your turn.
Okay, there it is. Okay, so the final product. Well, in this case, we use the popular film Back to the Future. Do you know Back to the Future? Well, Back to the Future. Okay.
Yes.
Well, Back to the Future, starring Michael Fox as Marty McFly, as an inspiration to carry out our project. Yes. In this case, the final product will be a letter to my future self. Yes. We'll use this movie as a reference in terms of going back and forth in time. But in this case, to describe the way Rio Grande has changed over time by exposing some places from the past and how they look in the present. Yes, in order to know more about our province. Yes. So moving on. Okay. Okay.
There you have it.
Okay, thank you. This is mine, Christian. Okay, activating language and cultural schemata. Doing this immediately engage our students, gets them using English, and prepares them for successful comprehension. We will explain one activity from this project. And in this first activity, we are going to show the trailer from Back to the Future. We will ask the students, of course, if they know this film or not, and we will tell them a brief summary. Then we will show, but please move on to the next slide, please, and I will explain the next activity. This is the first activity, and we will show pictures to our students from Old Rio Grande, in this case, and we will ask them, what is this? Do you know this place? And we will expect their answers. And if they cannot, we could answer, of course, that if you don't know, this is the bridge in its beginnings. And then we will show another picture. And this is another picture, and we will ask our students, what is this? Do you know this place? Do you usually go there? Or, okay, then they will say, or not, the water tower. Okay, yes, of course, no. And then we will show them the picture of the new water tower. And then we can compare both pictures, and we'll ask them, what can you see there? What difference can you see? And this is an oral activity, yes? Then this is the last picture. Here, we'll ask them again, what can you see here? What is it? Yes, they could answer or not, but we will say that this is Rio Grande. And what can you see? Oh, yes, there is a boat. Okay, there you can find people. Oh, yes. And what can you see? There's a woman. Okay, look there. You can find a woman. And maybe they know, or maybe they don't know, that in the past, and we will say that, and in the past, we used to cross the river with a boat woman. Yes, she was the rowboat, the woman who rowed the boat. I'm sorry. And this is an interesting story here in Rio Grande. Yes, of course, we don't, sorry. And then we can show them the other picture, that this is the bridge. And this is the way we cross the river today. Today. And now we can ask and we can elicit them to say, okay, do you know what parts of the city do this that this bridge match? Or what can we find on the other side of this bridge, for example? Then they can say La Margen Sur, El Barrio GP, okay? And where are our schools? Our schools are near the bridge or not. And this is the first activity we are going to show, and we are going to prepare with our students. Then we can say, for example, if they know the name of the woman, with the boat woman, because I think she's alive, and her name is Ariela de Carmen Saldivia. This is the first activity. Now, please, the next slide. As we can see, with this activity, we can foster discovering our communities, and promote critical thinking about our history, and that things could be changed and could be better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christian and Maria and Dante worked really hard. They're just showing you. I'm going to turn on my camera now. Thank you. They worked really hard studying and reading and preparing so that they could develop this project work. And well, just a final word. Teachers of a foreign language, we have this great opportunity, yes, to plan classes, to open our eyes, to open our students' eyes to our world and to new words. I would like to quote Miriam Casamassima, a great colleague of ours, that in her book, Planning as Narrative, she says that planning is a social event, that learning is a cultural process, and that social interaction plays a fundamental role in the construction of knowledge. I celebrate moments when teachers come together, think together how to improve what happens in our classroom with our EFL students. Yes, and what project work in particular, my students and I believe that it gives teachers and students the possibility to explore and learn as a community.
No sé.
So,
¿No?
thank you very much.
No me acuerdo.
Okay.
Thank you, Ana. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And well, now we're moving on to you, Professor Calvo. Yes, I will
just a second, but could you please, yes, okay, thank you for sharing.
Yes.
Let me see. I think.
Let's see.
I think we are about to experience a problem. Let me see If the problem...
What problem? What's the problem?
Arrives, lands.
Oh, a problem that lands.
Yes.
Okay.
Just wait a second.
I'm ready.
The problem is coming. Are you there?
Yes.
Of course, we are.
Yeah.
We're here.
But
Yes.
just a second, because Lisa, where are you?
Are they speaking to you?
We've got an intruder. I think that we are having an intruder in this, an intrusion in this Zoom meeting.
Oh my.
Yes, but I really don't know the origin, where he or she is coming from.
Okay.
Let me see if we have it here. Intruder, are you there?
I'm here.
Don't scare us. Where are you? Can you talk to us?
I'm hiding. I am ashamed of showing my face to the human race.
Why? What happened? Vilgax.
Should
Who
I?
are you? Vilgax.
Who is Bill?
Oh.
What is that? An intrusion? An invasion? What is that?
Hello, everyone. Let me introduce myself. My name is Vilgax, and I came all the way from the 7th star of Mars to know more about your province, which my colleagues from the Ministry of Species of the Galaxy told me that Rio Grande is one of the youngest provinces in Argentina. Am I right?
Of course, you're right.
Yes.
Yes, you're right. Totally right.
Great, good. So, as I mentioned before, I came here today to know more about your province and your ways of living. But why, you may ask? The purpose I'm here today is to know about Rio Grande because I was ordered to stay in your province, to study your ways of living more closely, and to be able to complete the required reports for my superiors. But let me tell you that I'm excited because Rio Grande is one of the coldest provinces in Argentina. Now, I just received some intel, some photos for my mothership.
Photos? You mean this photo? Could you please move a bit? Because for us, you're looking like a picture, and that was not the idea.
I know, but it's hard to establish a connection between the Earth and the mothership.
Okay, I will show you the picture, Vilgax.
Okay, good. So, I have some questions about these pictures.
All right,
Okay.
don't scare us.
Do people in Tierra del Fuego come from the Yagan canals or from the European ships?
Yagan canoe, like this one here, we are looking
Exactly.
at the picture. Okay, Yagan canoe. Yagan, yes, our Native Americans. What was the question, sorry?
Do you come from the Yagan canals or from European ships?
Anybody can answer to that question?
Well, I can help.
Please, go ahead.
Yeah. Well,
Please answer my question.
some of us come from, right, the antecessors, I would say, from the Yagans, but many others, most of us, come from European and other origins. We are all settlers here in Tierra del Fuego.
I see.
Yes.
So,
but at the same time, we are told that we Argentinians come from the ships. Is that true? We all come from the ships, our forms, our costumes, our culture, all of that comes from the ships? Or some part of that also comes from the Yagan canoes? Is that more or less,
Yes.
is the question answered? Virgax?
yes. And are you proud of descending from these European ships or Yagan canoes?
Anybody? Can I open the mic and have a word about that?
If you do, I have to make a warning. If you do not answer the questions,
Oh my God.
maybe my superiors will invade Earth. I'm just,
Come on, ladies and
let's say,
gentlemen.
sentinel.
Stella.
Oh my God, please, no.
No.
Yes, we're proud.
We're absolutely proud.
course
Yeah,
we
we're
are
proud.
proud.
Excellent. So are native Yagans living nowadays?
No, unfortunately, no.
Unfortunately, no.
Oh, I see. So is racism an important issue in Tierra del Fuego?
Well, I think so.
I think so, yeah.
How?
So the other Fuegians, yes, sharing this Zoom meeting, do you feel that we do have a problem of racism in the island? I'm just a spokesperson of Vilgax.
Tell us.
Yeah, many of them say yes.
Interesting.
The thing is that the province of Tierra del Fuego and Rio Grande is the city in Tierra del Fuego. Let me read some comments.
I see.
Yes. Someone said yes. Someone said interesting.
Yes. We've got several yes here.
Yes.
Okay, something to think about, don't you think?
Of course.
Yeah.
I do believe.
Yes,
I have some other questions to be answered.
Okay.
Is your species killing each other?
Because of the monument.
Yes.
Yes, of
I see
Malvinas
a big
War.
gun there.
Yes, a big gun. So you are an alien coming from from space, asking if we humans we are killing each other. Is that the question?
Indeed.
Oh, sorry, I don't know. What is the chat saying?
Patagonia, teach Tierra del Fuego, where we live and teach. Okay. Pame, do you have a word?
Okay. Sometimes our species fight each other in order to obtain power. That's why Argentina and the UK starting a war to gain the Malvinas Island.
Oh. And is this monument, this icon, a symbol of peace or a symbol of war?
This icon is not a symbol of peace or a war. It is represent a commemorative symbols in which give attributes to Argentine soldiers who fought in Malvinas War.
And I have, this is a personal question. Why are you glorifying a dog?
Oh, this is an interesting question. Okay. This dog called Tom, it was the announcer to the Argentinian soldiers when the British army was going to attack our territory. That's why he is in that monument.
I understand. So, speaking about that picture over there, it seems kind of frost, cold, icy. How does winter affect working classes?
Well, let me tell you, Vilgax, that winter is always tough in our province, let's say, as we had to deal with low temperatures, snow, and frozen streets. Yes. So, as we may say, it directly affects the working classes, making it impossible, for instance, to go to our jobs or even taking the public transport.
Oh, I see. So let's say that is your alien commander responsible for saving people from the cold?
Well, we don't actually have an alien commander, but our town hall governor is the responsible for taking care of our citizens by bringing security and improving their living conditions.
I see. So, do all people have a rocket ship to get to work in cases like this?
No, we would like it to have a rocket ship in cases like this, but unfortunately, we have to deal with this reality. Yes, we usually use the public transport or even a personal car for transporting ourselves to work and other places.
Oh, and what about that picture over there at the bottom under the bridge? Is wind is wind used for the transportation of houses?
No. Whenever a house needs to be transported, trucks will be used to move them from one place to another. We don't use wind to transportation.
Oh, very interesting. So, why do people live in light houses?
Well, just to clarify, we don't live in actually lighthouses. There are no lights as such coming out from houses, but people live in houses built with light and cheap materials because, as I said, they are cheap and lighter. They are friendly with the environment.
I see. Okay, my sensors often detect some heaviest storms lectures. Do you all have shelters in case of a heavy storm or heavy windstorms?
Well, I'm not so sure about this. What does the chat says about this? Can you help me? Do we have shelters?
I don't think so.
Okay, some are better than others. Yes, of course, living conditions vary all through the city, depending on the type of materials used for building our houses, and that, based on that, they can suffer more or less when strong winds blast the city.
I see.
Okay. Is that okay? Are you going to invade us or not?
No, I'm not. We are not going to invade Earth. We have decided we don't like Earth.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Scott.
That's a relief.
I will put this on my report. No, I must leave, as we don't use this strange connection human use. Internet, it's very difficult to understand. So I must leave.
This is our technology. Sorry for that. And goodbye.
It's fine.
Farewell.
Sorry for the frozen camera.
Bye-bye. See you.
Goodbye,
Yeah.
Vilgax. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, humans.
Bye-bye, Vilgax. Yes, the idea was, of course, to have that filter, yes, moving and in action, as in Predator. Come and invade Mexico. We have pyramids. Yes, they will. Let me see. Let me reorganize my my view here. And just a final comment about that. Yes, the idea was supposed to be, of course, like a simulation of an activity we can carry out with our students in class. It is thought to be inductively, yes, just the activity, then posing questions. Those questions can elicit different type of answers, and depending on the type of question is where we find the possibility of tackling down myths, that common sense, the ordered ideas. Yes, and you know that increasingly countries around the world are promoting forms of critical citizenship in plans of schools. However, the intended meaning behind this term varies significantly and can range from a set of abstract and technical skills under the label critical thinking to the desire to encourage engagement, commitment, action, political emancipation, yes, which is often called as the critical pedagogy. So this activity deployed here with that inductively purpose tries to distinguish these manifestations, showing how the simple use of proper questions can elicit critical thinking in general, yes, and critical citizenship in particular, when the scope of analysis flows into areas of common interest, such as identity, gender, racism, power distribution, access to public services, living conditions, chauvinism and nationalism, the private and the public, yes? So it's always, yes, paramount to understand that good questions sometimes is the pivot of our classes, yes? And all this idea of raising awareness on critical thinking in general and critical citizenship always aims at a certain type of discipline, but in the good sense, a discipline that means following agreements that are instrumental for socialization, yes? Also aims at autonomy, yes, which is the empowerment and formulation of our own opinions. But what's more importantly is that social involvement, yes, that shows a broad spectrum from social peaceful cohabitation to social justice, yes? So the idea behind these concepts and the urge to include them in our classes is to move forward in building, helping, tackling our students to be better citizens. Yes, so that was the idea of the group, just to shoot an activity that tries to use the simple concept of the puppet Euge mentioned at the beginning, with more technological filters, which didn't work out as we tried before. Yes, the Vilgax, the Predator, was supposed to be like in a movie, but okay, this is internet and our possibilities. Yes, so okay, that's it. Yes, for us. So now, great moment, I would say. Yes, we have our guests. Yes, please let's unroll the red carpet.
Yes, congratulations, Professor Calvo and students, for your incredible and fun presentation that we can borrow so many ideas from. Thank you very much. And yes, the moment has come for our special guest. Yes, we welcome these two dear speakers that have graciously donated their time and their knowledge for this event. We're humbled by their generosity, yes, and of course they will challenge us to a discussion, as always. So on the one hand, yes, Marina Gonzalez, yes, is here with us. She's a teacher who has developed her career mainly in university language program settings. As university professor, she designed content for and taught ELT management and material design too at the Licentiate Diploma for English Teachers at Universidad CAESE, Argentina. In the past years, coordinating language programs, she has been in charge of developing projects for new audiences and needs, and focused on the issue of foreign language teaching to older adults during the past 4 years. She has delivered webinars and workshops in various countries and written on the issue of older adults and teaching older adults. So welcome, Marina. And also, yes, Dr. Gabriel Diaz-Maggioli. He's an educator who applies the lessons learned in the classroom to his role as teacher of teachers, researcher, writer, and consultant. He holds a doctorate and master's in education from the University of Bath and is a certified researcher at the National Agency of Research and Innovation, ANII. At the international level, he has served on the board of directors of TESOL International Association from 2016 to 2009, as well as chair of the Materials Writers Interest Section and a member of the nominating committee in 2013. He has recently become president-elect of the International Association of Teachers of English as a Foreign Language, IATEFL. So Marina and Gabriel, thank you very much for being here from the bottom of our hearts. And please, we are ready to listen to you.
Thank you for the invitation. And I have to warn everybody that it's pouring cats and dogs here in Montevideo, and we have a huge electrical storm. So if I disappear, it's because we've had a power cut. Just bear with me. I will try to connect through my cell phone. Marina.
No, and I'm also panicked because rain is about to pour here and I'm depending on some sort of electricity that I'm worried about. So just fingers crossed, everything that we can cross and work out well, okay? People, thanks for the invitation. Really what we wanted to do, we think, I mean, we've been sharing and discussing things for 2 decades now, I guess.
Already.
So when we get going, it's like difficult to stop us, but please do join in. It would be great. And what we wanted to share is many times we work on products, right? We present products. And we thought that the biggest gift that we could give in a way was to show the kitchen, was to show and to share how we think. Because many times, I mean, I've been mostly into managing programs, designing programs and creating programs. And I was mostly in teacher education, designing models, theory, etc. So, I mean, when we listen to people like you working with students with such wonderful productions and things of the sort, we thought that what we could do is to show you how we think in a way that we can support people to work happily and fruitfully as you do, okay? So we haven't brought something shining, but really we wanted to share the drafts. When we start thinking and when we draw on paper, this is how we are going to start the dialogue, if you agree. So it started raining. Okay, can you see?
Coming up. There we go.
Yeah, because I can't, for some reason I can't see it. Okay, here we are. So, fingers crossed. What we wanted to talk about basically is the idea of thinking socially just models, okay? How we start thinking about them. And the first thing was to start with this last project that I've been working on. We stopped working on adult, on older adults, because the new project of opening a center for at university. I'm sorry, but it has just started pouring on top of my head, and so excuse me.
We can hear the rain actually.
Can you hear it? And mind you, and I have headphones, so well. Okay, so the point is this: 2 years ago, all right, the university where I work, which is one of the new universities in the greater Buenos Aires area, that are the ones that are called generally Universidad del Bicentenario o del Conurbano, okay, decided to open a new teacher training school. And I had visited you a short time before. So I had learned a lot from the Ipes Paulo Freire and from the wonderful experiences and I had the chance to see and to ask. And one of the biggest challenges there is at university level and in general non-English programs is that there is a level of English that is demanded from applicants that is not necessarily real, or at least it does not embody the realities of lots of people. So what we had to do was to create a way, to develop a way in which everybody who wanted to, and I'm going to quote Derek Zoolander, developing an English program for people who can't speak English but want to speak English, right? In a way that was going to be socially just, that was not going to be a hidden way of accepting people and convincing them somehow that they cannot do it. And this is where we started conversations with Gabriela and Eugenia, who really were my team. I mean, we were a team in developing this idea, and in a way, this is the way we ended up designing what is called the CPI, which is the Ciclo Preparatorio de Inglés. Okay, the choice of words is important because it's not a course. It's a period of time. People are not expelled from it. What they do have, and you can see from the different colors, are the different ways of entering the program. And if you see, can you see any arrow that sends anybody out of the program?
No.
You see that this is the important change, and this is what we think that we do in terms of social justice. All right, that is, we are. It is our commitment, okay, to fulfill the dreams of those people who want to make the effort of studying higher education and becoming what they want to be. So it is our strong responsibility to develop and design programs and processes and stages that will ensure these people can do things, okay? So if you take a look, I don't know, Gabito, do you have any question or anything? Do you want to start?
No, just go ahead. Go ahead.
Just letting me speak on my own, guys.
Yeah.
If you take a look, Trayectoa is for those people who who only remember from their schooling, because the first thing that we do is we value state education, all right? And we challenge the idea that you need to go to an institute to learn the language, that you don't learn English at school. So maybe it is not what somebody else dreamt of in another world, but we know that we may have people who did not have access to the best possible education, but still want to do something that this education didn't allow them to, but they did get something. So we need to start from that. We start by recognizing, and the person who, after having been at least 7 years in an English language classroom, be it playing truco, messaging, or trying to call the attention of somebody else, they were there present, okay? And whenever in theory we talk about exposure to language, well, those that were sitting in the class are exposure. So we want to challenge the idea of zero, okay? People with zero knowledge after their formal stages of education. So even if they say, hello, I am Juanita, I have 13 years old, that is language. They possess language, okay? So then these people start, okay? And they have the possibility of attending 128 hours of classes, and then they may pass to the next module or not pass. If they do not pass, they attend again, okay, the course, okay? The first course, the first module. Then they go to the second. If this person that attends the first module does not pass, we assign them a tutor, okay? Because we must make sure, and we must move away from blaming the student, okay? We need to make sure that we as teachers are doing the best possible to accompany this person in his or her trajectory, okay? Then they may move to the second module, all right? And again, if they pass or not pass, they attend again. And whenever somebody has to attend again, there is a tutor, okay, following the moves of this person, okay? So if you check, you have this tutor here, tutor there, okay? So I think that the things like this scrap of paper is not something that you usually see. But when you work in institutions, when you work in organizations, when you feel comfortable or uncomfortable, when you see that there is something in your set of principles that is different from the institution, we want you to know that somebody, as Freire says, right? What you read is what somebody by reading wrote, okay? So there is a number of levels of production behind, and it is not only the teachers' work in this fantastic dialogue with students has to be supported by the organizations, all right? Organizations need to think of the process and not only about quantities, okay? So this is my kickoff.
I may just butt in for a minute, Marina.
Of course.
We have seen this happen, and we are still somehow married or permeated by a very colonialist celebratory position. Only those who have the most excellent level of English can become teachers because they are close to being the native speaker that we all dream to be. And we have had that in the profession for so long that we need to change the tables. The truth is that the teachers who are going to be really committed to working with our public school students in our countries are teachers who were born in those countries, who were learners themselves in those countries, and who can transmit to the students what being a learner of a language means. Okay, and we need to start decolonizing both the curricula and the means of access, because the truth is that the whole of Latin America has been subjected to reforms towards improving the level of English for over 20 years, and the levels have not improved. Why? Simply because we don't have the qualified teachers in the public schools. So let's stop cheating ourselves. Let's invest in getting to our students the best teachers we can get. And how do we do that? By having a very diverse base at the entry and helping everybody who wants to teach achieve their dreams, as Marina said. Sorry.
No. That is exactly perfect. I mean, this is something that is really important, and that when we see the kind of activities that our friends at the Ipes, Paulo, Freire do, we see this construction of new generations of teachers with a different perspective, and something that is that who are working to be decolonialized. I mean, the other day we were in the presentation of a book that we worked together with Euge on the first rendering into English of a book by Abuela de Plaza de Mayo. And but we still, even though this work was produced in English, a very important personality was still complaining about English being the language of the colony, right? And it was not the place, it was not the moment to talk about that, but it is important that we make a very strong point about the fact that we are now teaching English in a plurilingual society, that we are not talking about English as the only thing to be taught and the only thing that you can have access to, that it's one of the many languages that you can and even should speak, all right? Starting by recognizing your identity. And this is something that we also have to thank our friends from Bolivia, Mexico, and Ecuador, who never had this middle-class conundrum that we do have in Uruguay and Brazil. They never question who they are because they teach English. They know who they are and they also teach English, all right? But in many of our cases, we seem to have fallen off a ship and landed in Argentina for some reason, but we truly were from another place. And that is a colonialist vision that we need to start changing. And of course, we have our beloved Darío, who has been fighting strongly from Patagonia, working on the production of materials, right? And the production of theory by our own people to start challenging this idea, right? So this being said, I think that we can move on from the not so appealing. I know that my field is not appealing to everybody because people love to talk about the classrooms and what happens and how people are happy. But I am like the engineer here. Right? We are necessary. We are not fun. We are not so attractive, but we are necessary to design the places where you will be able to shine. And if you find yourselves in places that are not like that, demand for that, okay? Make a demand. You have to be heard. You have to be, your voice is worthy. And was it like 10 years ago, we were working together at the licenciatura with Gabo. He helped me out in the professional development unit because we had teachers, very young teachers, saying, I can't do anything. The school doesn't allow me to do that. And we looked at each other and said, how come? I mean, they are 30 years younger than we are, and they don't have the strength. So we need to empower them, okay? And this is what I think that we have been doing for a very long time. So let me move a bit into what Gabo specializes most, all right, what is the idea of the teacher to be, or the future colleague, or the learner learning the lessons that we want them to learn. Okay. So Gabo, it's all yours.
So I'm going to, if you stop sharing, I'm going to start by sharing mine. And I want to show you a picture. This is a graffiti that stands outside the School of Education at Universidad Autónoma de Madrid, Facultad de Educación. And it says, Sistema de Enseñanza Igual. And what do you think it equals to? Shoot me some ideas on the chat. Sistema de enseñanza igual.
Igual. I can't see the chat. Here it is. I read in the chat.
Nobody's saying anything. Inequality. Dictadura. No question mark. Robots. Okay, great. Estructuras impuestas. I found the person who wrote this graffiti and the symbolism of this graffiti so powerful. I just couldn't believe my luck that I was able to take a photo, because it's School of Education. Sistema de enseñanza equals enseñanza del sistema. So you see how powerful this is, how we are just reproductory entities in many teacher education. And we're talking here in the Southern corner of Latin America, and we see this all over the place. So our quest with Marina has been to deconstruct these systems, to try and think outside the box, because the saying goes like this, but actually think outside the box. And one of the realizations that we came to is that of all the things, of all the areas of human knowledge, every area of human knowledge has a pedagogy, right? The pedagogy of mathematics, the pedagogy, we call it didactics here, but in the Northern Hemisphere, didactic is traditional. So let's call it pedagogy, which is more encompassing. But when we talk about a pedagogy of teacher education, we cannot find it. And so isn't it ironical that we don't have a pedagogy to educate the future educators, right? And that has been more or less our quest. And I want to go to the master, Paulo Freire, and just start with this quotation here, right? Problem posing education, responding to the essence of consciousness, which is intentionality, rejects communiques and embodies communication. Liberating education consists in acts of cognition, not transference of information. And unfortunately, when you are engaged in creating curricula for future teachers, you are actually constrained by the context. Where's the model? The model comes from a curriculum that was created for 1 month courses for native speakers to be able to roam the world teaching English. And what does the curriculum consist of? Courses in language, courses in methodology, courses in culture, right? And you try to break away from that tradition, and you can't. Why? Because the system has been formatted in a certain way. I'm Uruguayan. and I'm very proud of my teacher education. But I attended what was in 1982 the only teacher education institution in Uruguay. And I could attend it because I happened to live in Montevideo, in the capital city, right? That was an elite institution that when it was founded in 1949, only accepted 10 people per year. Cohorts were only 10 students. Now, what happened was the same model of teacher education of 1949 is the one we have today. And people are talking about, we're going to reform teacher education. And every new government comes and says, we are reforming teacher education. And what they do is they just shuffle what is there. But the matrix, the DNA of teacher education is not changed. I've been in this profession in teacher education since 1993. It's going to be a lot of years, like 30 years very soon. And we have all fought. I mean, as unions, teacher educator unions, we are now fighting because they are trying to define, the new government is trying to define didactics as didáctica general nomás, porque no es necesario la didáctica específica. Yeah. 21st century, right? So I said, well, if I cannot defeat them, I'm going to, between big inverted commas, join them. And so what I tried to do, and this Marina was instrumental in this, and Euge también, because they have heard my ramblings for the past 6 or 7 years. Let me try to create some coherent whole that departs from the way teachers are educated. You take a training of trainers course anywhere in the world, and what you get is how to do input sessions, how to do class observation, how to do teacher evaluation. Well, that's it. And then you take the Bibles of ELT that were published in the 1980s and somehow remain the same. One of the first things I ask my students to do is to take one of those classics that has 7 editions. And I have the 7 editions because stupidly I bought them. And the first session is, let's look at the table of contents and what has changed. And things that have changed, the inclusion of technology. Around the 2nd edition, the use of video in the classroom because it was popular in those days. Around the 4th edition, the inclusion of computers. But when you look at how to teach the language, it's the same text as in 1981. So what I've been working on and what I would like to share with you is a model that has been inspired by the work of Paulo Freire, mostly the work on conscientization. And it's not a framework to be adopted. It's a heuristic to think about how we teacher educators create experiences for learning teaching, okay? And I call it the enable model. The name enable was not my creation. I owe that to Paula Rebolledo, who also spent hours listening to my ramblings. And then one day she said, okay, why don't you find a powerful word that somehow conveys what it is? And I love the word enable because when you are enabling, you are not directing, you are empowering, you are generously giving. And one of the biggest criticisms that the work of Freire has received is the fact that somehow you could consider that the dialogic educator can be a manipulator. When you say you conscientize people, right, or you lead them to conscientization, you could be manipulating them. Now, the true dialogic educators knows that that is not the case. So when you see what I'm going to present, just consider that this is not a method, a framework, a set of steps to be followed. It's just a way of putting together what we know about learning to teach in a coherent whole that would allow us to give every student teacher that we have the chance to learn.
May
So,
I
yes,
interrupt
go ahead.
before you start so that they wait a little bit more for that
Okay.
they're going to see and they are going to enjoy? I just wanted to add something to what you're talking about in terms of dialogic related to the program. Because the problem of dialogue, I think, lies in the fact of having a student, a future colleague who is empowered to share with you and whom you have to take as an equal. And that is something that is said but is not respected in most of the situation. In most of situations, when I was listening to you, I remembered that when we started with how we are going to assign the people to the different trayectos, the first question was, what do you think it was? ¿Le tomaste prueba de nivel? Okay. And I said, no, we are not doing that. What we are doing is we are running a diagnosis period. And the first activity that we do is a survey. Because before starting to say something, we listen to them. Then we're going to check. And the first question, even from students, was, ¿pero si te miento? For example, it was like, it's so surprising to see that somebody who wants to be a teacher has been affected by the system in such a way that they don't even trust themselves.
Enseñanza del sistema.
Exactly. You know, that I always bring things to your loop. So this is the idea, and that's why I wanted to share, because it's just something as simple as opening the dialogue to somebody who's a future colleague, which is in a way being consistent with the methodology that you say you are going to start applying, seems to be so disruptive. Yeah. Right. So,
well, but I think that is also because the schooling as an institute, as a social institution, I don't want to call it school, but the process of schooling is a social process, as a social institution, is bound by the habitus, right? What Bourdieu used to say. And the habitus is both a structure and what structures us. So people who are teacher educators belong to a different class. And this year I started teaching in another teacher education institution, not the one I had been teaching for 30 years. Yeah, I was a new teacher. Nobody knew me. I was a new teacher. And the first thing that surprised me was the first class when I said, okay, I want to build the course. These are students in the fourth year, last year. What are your motivations? What do you need to learn? And they were like, no, you just teach us the syllabus. And I said, but what's the use of me teaching you a syllabus? I'm not going to be teaching in the schools where you teach. I'm not going to be teaching your students. That they are the main actors here. So what do they need that you need me to help you learn or become aware of? And this is the spirit behind Enable, right? That we start, for example, we all bring to teaching, when we start teaching, our experience of thousands and thousands of hours as students. And we understand teaching from the point of view of what we learn and how we learn best. And that is why we become educators, because of that power. I don't want to say the first, because this is not the first. But one thing that you need to do when you're helping people learn to teach is to engage them with their own experience both as teachers and as learners. right? So that once they know who they are, once they are able to name themselves and to name and rename their experience and their knowledge, they are able to notice the environment and what the learners need. A lot of research on teacher education tells us that beginning teachers, what we call novice teachers, they don't focus on students learning. They focus on their own teaching, their survival, right? Now, I think that is because they have not been sensitized to who they are as educators and who they are as learners and how the teacher-learner dialectic plays out. So I need them to help them, I need to help them notice that not everything is done the way the cooperating teacher did it, because that happened last year in a group in a school, which is not the school where you're now teaching. Another thing is, Freire uses the idea of communiques for those kind of transmissive, powerful messages that we send. When they tell me, well, decime cómo querés que enseñemos y yo enseño así. No. I don't want you to teach it anyway. I just want you to teach in a way that your students learn. So no communiques. But if you look at the methodology books, they are prescriptive. This is how you teach grammar. This is how you teach speaking. This is how you teach listening. So everything in our profession seems to be about prescription, standards, and competencies. And there's very little about becoming a teacher. So noticing is making them aware that there are different possibilities. Following that, after they notice, they need to access this level of practice that they want to implement. And following that, we need to establish bridges between what they have now learned about who they are and how they teach, and what they can do in the classroom, which is going to be the next step, is when they launch their new understandings about teaching. The problem is that if we skip the bridging, we run the risk of sending them to battle, if you wish, unprepared, right? So I'm going to show you how this can be put together. And after they taught, there has to be an extension of that teaching, that positions them as reflective professionals, not just as reflective professionals, but also as reflective colleagues who do not keep their own reflection, but who actually bring the reflection to the teacher education classroom, and that becomes the turf for naming and renaming our reality. So what are each of the stages for? This first stage that I show here, which is not the first, is to make them aware of their apprenticeship of observation and the teaching style. The second one is to help them discover that there are ways in which some people do things, and to sensitize them as to the fact that maybe that way may work with their students, right? Accessing has to do with me teaching them. Yeah. Well, teaching reading, how to teach reading, how to teach listening, how to teach speaking, that comes in my syllabus, and I need to cover it, because I cannot create a syllabus out of the blue that I will send them unprepared, right? Send them into the classroom unprepared. Teacher educators, particularly people like Ana Paula or myself who teach didactics or methodology, we are the gatekeepers of the profession. So we have to make sure that they do not just know the thing to do in the classroom, but who and why and how and when. That means that in accessing, they will learn from the theory, they will look at the practice, they will explore every dimension, and then we test it out in the privacy of our learning community through micro-teaching or through controlled experiments. something that allows them to try and play with a simulation, if you wish. But then everybody looks at everybody else and everybody gives a feedback. The launching is the actual implementation in the classroom, but that implementation is not just, I just go and I do it. I have co-constructed with my peers and my teacher educator an understanding of this concept, teaching concept. We tried it out, we manipulated it in the classroom. I did it in the teacher education classroom. I did it in the language classroom, and I involved my students there. So these are like two simultaneous processes. They are going through the steps, if you wish, the moments, but they are also engaging their students in that. And in the last one, the extending, that is when you take ownership of your new learning. And now there's where the humility of the teacher educator has to come. Because as a teacher educator, I need to admit that maybe something I recommended did not work in that classroom with those students in that context. And that the intervention that my student teachers made were as relevant as the one that I may have proposed, right? So this framework, if you look at it, what lies at the center are all the tools that we use to mediate teacher learning. We record ourselves and we transcribe ourselves, and we look at those transcripts. We film ourselves, we go to books, we talk to language teachers who are also in the school where we work, and we request their opinion. We do peer observation. And when I say we, I have a peer teacher educator who observes me and I observe him. So it's preaching the way that you pray. Because my belief is that, first of all, before I move on, this is not a sequence. You can enter the process in any point. And the teacher educator is not the one who starts the cycle. I've just had the most beautiful class planned for last Tuesday with my students. And one of them said they're teaching online. And she just had a very strong concern. My classes suck. My online classes suck. And why do you say that? Is that low self-esteem? And I said, no, literally ask my students and they say they are not learning. So what we did is we started with her noticing. We listened to her. After we understood the situation, we marked, because one thing is to notice, to become aware, but then you have to mark something that is doable. And what we did, we all wrote about it. And we wrote about how we did it, that is registering, okay? And then we went to the literature on online instruction, we went to the internet, and we started the process there. You can start at any moment, depending on the student teacher's needs. But when you finish, even if you finish at the engaged moment, when they become engaged with their own experience, right? From a critical perspective. I start my courses with this quotation I'm going to show you, and I finish it with the same quotation. Oh, sorry. There are different learnings in this framework. There's a moment for them to learn to see. There's a moment for learn to do, and a moment to learn to become. And all the experience is mediated by different tools and people, so that the student teachers are not alone consuming a theory that they implement. And we break the theory practice divide. Sorry, Marina. But I always start my courses with this quotation from Freire. And I think that the enable model is what allowed me to put this in practice. We are all beginners and we are all experts. It all depends on who we are and where we are in our histories or her stories, right? So the point of encounter, there are neither utter ignoramuses nor perfect sages, no. Just people attempting together to learn more than they now know. And as a teacher educator, I'm growing as much as my student teachers.
You know what, Gabo? I was listening to you and thinking that when you say and when you present them, when we design models, we are talking about creating rationales and not that underlie different processes, right? And not giving recipes of what to do. And luckily, I've seen this, that many people, at least mostly, come to you to ask you, what should I do, right?
Exactly.
Or how can I be so, I don't know, effective, or etc. And I think that in a way, and going back to that phrase of Freire that we have used in some other occasions, I think that we are trying. I don't know if you agree, but we've said that we've talked about this sometimes. That is, like, we are in a moment of our personal careers that it's like we have become strippers. But we're kind of getting rid of all the things that are unnecessary, and that we want to focus on the basics. If there is anything that we want to transmit, is the core is here. What is important is here. Then add whatever you want, but focus on the fundamentals.
What got me started with Enable was with this framework, with this model, was the fact that somebody asked me, like, how can you orchestrate everything that there is to know about teacher learning? Where do you put teachers' beliefs? Where do you put the discipline of noticing? Where do you put the modeling and the deconstruction of practices? And where does autonomy come on board in the whole process? So, well, I hope that I managed to convey these ideas. And with Marina and Euge planning this new teacher education program, I think we are living by the mottos that we use, right? Now we need to see it in action. We need to see it in action, and we need to see whether our elucubrations, if you could say that in English, I don't know. I heard the word the other day, but I couldn't find it in a dictionary, but I heard it by a native speaker.
But it's funny because we don't get rid of those things.
No, we don't.
I mean, a couple of days ago, you also told me, I learned a new word because I heard it from somebody. And these are things that, it's very hard to decolonialize when we're still, what we do is we are aware of our limitations. We are aware of what we do or what we can do, etc. But I think that trying to live by, the reason why we don't realize we are disruptive in projects is because we're not focused on being disruptive, but on trying to live by our principles.
Yeah.
And I think that if there is anything that we would like to share, probably, of course, with this beautiful gift that you have given them by sharing the model, I think that it's this is, you can think, one of the problems I have with these whatever things that I sound like an old person. It's not that I don't value things, but I think that the world of human rights, all the movements of human rights have found answers that are social to things that are being called again as individual.
Absolutely.
And this is part of what what I think that we could be happy to say is that we are trying to be coherent with what we think and what we do. And that we hope that this is something that everybody will embrace. And I think that the world will be better in that way.
And though we might be wrong, and there's a possibility that we might be wrong, At least we are not harming anybody. No, don't say that. We know that we might be wrong, but we are not harming anybody, which I think to me is the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that is where we are. Questions. We wanted this to be a conversatorio, but we ended up being.
Well, right. It was basically a conversation between two.
Yeah, you're right.
We're
Thanks
open
a lot.
to questions,
We are so
comments.
pleased. Yes, and let's extend the invitation to our friends from Mexico. We have people participating from Chaco, San Juan, Mendoza, Buenos Aires. Please open your mics. Yes, if you have any doubts, any comment, any final words, so as to commit in this conversatorio. Yes, it's chatting, talking Friday night. This is just we still need the beer. Yes.
Yes.
We still need the beer.
Beer, some
peanuts. To get us started now that the talk is officially over. I'm going to light a cigarette.
Okay, great.
I'm going to raise my hand.
Ana Paula.
I think I agree with what you say, absolutely, Gabo, this idea, and especially as applied linguistics teachers, that we need to constantly rethink of this, not falling back in the manuals and opening the door and listening. What Marina said is very important, to listen to your students as someone who is going to be teaching in the classroom next to you in 6 months' time and will be making decisions in institutions next to you. So you need to prepare yourselves and them for that situation. But I feel guilty sometimes that I'm leaving behind a chapter from that book, or that where we learn assessment, but we didn't read, we explored these, we did micro teaching, micro experiences, but we didn't study in depth that author, because time ran and we had to do this and that. I think that that is something that we need to fight as applied linguistics teachers, and to put our students at the center. But it is like you feel you're failing them if you're not going back to the authors, the manuals, the writers. Isn't that your experience as well?
Absolutely. But what I do is I have a differentiated bibliography. Yeah, I mean, not everybody needs to read everybody. There are students who actually are better read than I am. Case in point, I have a student this year who works for what? Amazon. And she has obsessive compulsive disorder, academic obsessive compulsive disorder. So last year she started the course. This is second year in the 4-year program, and I'm teaching them didactics 1. They had introduction to didactics last year, and because she works on Amazon, she downloads everything for free. So in every class, we have a reading list, right? That like we have like the core, the support, the optional, and then the tailor-made, like this, right? But she reads everything because she has time, right? So many times I said, like, Caro, over to you. You give the class today because I don't know who you're reading. And yet to have other people who are still struggling to come to terms with some ideas. And I send them to the good old manuals. Okay, at least get the default settings. Once you get the default settings, then we can explore a little bit more. One activity that we do is at the end of every term, my students choose a book, any book, even una novelita de Corín Tellado. I had one student who used una novelita de Corín Tellado que ya se encuentra en las librerías de usados, ¿no? That was her. We had the book club, which is before going on the winter break. We have 2 sessions where we just talk about things that have inspired us. And this particular student, she had been on bed rest. She was pregnant. She read Corinne Tejado because her husband will go to a secondhand bookstore and buy things for her to read. And she saw the evolution of Spanish society and found a parallel with the evolution of methods. And it was mind-blowing, mind-blowing. I'm talking about the role of women, the role of men, some of the characters who were teachers and how teachers were depicted. So I don't know, choice.
And running the risk, right, of what you may get, because in general, I mean, it's what happens with the fantastic person from somewhere. What was the Gex, the person from the other planet trying to attack?
The alien.
I mean, right. Okay, it's you.
I would like to ask, yes.
Mariela.
I was just wondering if this learning path that you have showed is planned to be done in several years of the career or just in one, or if teachers complement on the planning.
No, Marina, go ahead.
Is it about the design, right?
The design, okay. Yeah, because we because here in San Juan it's like we divide all those stages that you have shown are like divided in different subjects, and sometimes teachers don't work together, and that becomes a problem, right?
Mm-hmm. What is happening to us, and it's also something I did not mention, is that we were struck by the number of people interested in registering, because we had 1,200 candidates who by now are 700. I mean, because they generally drop out before starting the course, etc. And what happens to us is that we separate three possibilities, okay? That is, the people who can start the English prácticas discursivas directly, those are around 20% of the students. And all the other 80 is allowed to start attending subjects from the general field and from pedagogy, because what we want to make sure is that they are studying to be a teacher. What Gabriel mentions is learning to be, learning, right? We think that it's crucial. And then before what happens is that their course of study becomes a year longer. Okay, but what we do is those people who had a weak primary and secondary training, in 1 year, we give them 300 hours of English. And that takes anybody, and at least anybody who has the internal drive to learn to intermediate. Okay, so what happens is that, like, we stop them a little bit, all right? We decide to let them learn English in general while they start start their first steps in pedagogy or in the role of
psychology, the role of the teacher.
Exactly, so that they realize that whatever English they are learning is for the purpose of teaching it, right? So I hope that I have answered your question. If
Marina, and another important thing is they are part of a cohort. It's not like they went into university and they are part of a cohort. In the cohort is very diverse. So diversity is not a disadvantage. It's actually the normal trait.
Exactly. What's more, the other thing that is particular is that we opened 3 teacher education programs, 2 for special education. And we have some subjects in which they are going to study together. Because one of the things that we don't want to continue is this concept of the English teacher being a different kind of teacher than anybody else, right? And not understanding difficulties, not understanding disabilities, not understanding limitations. And what's more, and if anybody has any information to share with me, I will be more than welcome. We have two blind students, two blind students who are starting. And we have realized that we know very little about teaching English to blind students.
Wow.
And we know very little about teaching English to deaf students, and this is going to happen. So if anybody has any kind of information, please, I'm more than welcome to read. I'm more than happy to read.
Thank you. Well, just one question. Is this being uploaded to YouTube, right? Because I would love to share this with my colleagues here.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. You can go and check it up whenever you want. Yes, it will be there forever till Vilgax comes again.
That's good. Thanks.
Gabriel, I was in fact amazed with your picture of teaching the system. Yes, the system of teaching and teaching the system. And I always comes to my mind the origin of revolts. Yes, in fact, when we question the system, at some point I wonder up to what extent is a system a corpus of agreements we made as society. Yes.
To me, it is.
Particular school or, bigger agreements, yes? And we all know and acknowledge that the power is unhealthily distributed, yes? We know that some rules are made by the powerful. So what I always try to do is to react to that blind idea of everything against the system. Because that in a way loses the historical perspective. Yes, we are part of the system we agreed and made, but at the same time to keep an eye on revolution and to keep an eye on evolution or innovation. Yes, so this is the system. It is not perfect, will never be perfect. I don't like it, or yes, or sometimes. But then to keep an eye on revolution in order to produce bigger changes, or evolution in case of the agreement. But I feel that at some point we react like blindly to systems in general.
Yeah, and I think that the system is there. I don't know if it is because we have created it. Maybe we have validated, or it's comfortable knowing that the system is there. This is the way we do things around here, right? And I hear it from many of my colleagues, like, ¿para qué te metes con eso? Si esto no va a cambiar. The politicians come every 4 years, but then when I look at some of my students teaching in schools, right, my heart goes out to them. So I understand the not going against the system. And my quest is not for them to go against the system, but to learn the system and learn about themselves as members of the system and the limits of their praxis, what they can do in terms of how they reflect on the reality and that of their students, and how they can take action in the name of those students, because many teachers do things in the name of the students without really raising this conscientization in the students, which is not a bad thing, because if it results in an advancement of those students, it's valid. But also begin to discover that, yeah, you can be against the system, but you are one more cog. So where does your power lie? What are the limitations of your power? And where can the power take you? And I always joke, but this is, to me, the greatest quotation about power. That is Spider-Man's quotation. With great power comes great responsibility, right? That is Spider-Man 101. And that is
Yeah.
the idea. Yeah, you can be an empowered educator, but what's your responsibility? Right? So I mean, there's this dialectical thing that the system creates the structure and the structure creates the system, and power leads to disempowerment, and disempowerment can lead to empowerment. So
I think that we should add the political dimension, because when we think about power, etc., we're thinking black and white. And for example, part of, well, at least like too global, because I as I was listening to you and I was listening to Tato's question, right? I was thinking about this idea of the re-evolution, right? The combination of the two, and how sometimes certain things are possible when truly it's the concept, the theory of theories, all right? The fact that a theory sustains when the outer circle can sustain its concept, and it is within the concept, the tenets of power. Because when a theory is against the tenets of power, it is going to fall down. And if I may go to my small quintita and relate what you're talking about with my specific situation, I know that the project, it was possible because the university worked directly with the province and with the region. And it was the teacher education programs that were opened because there was agreement that there was a need for these. So in a way, we are conscious that we may become disruptive to the general state status, but we are not focused on that. We're not trying to be disruptive. We're trying to respond to what the new demands are. So in a way, what I'm trying, as always, I'm bringing it to a smaller scale, this contrast, that this idea that you are developing. I think that when, as you say, when you start with this brings that, and the other thing brings the other one, and the other one causes the other one, you fall into a causal thinking. And sometimes they coincide, they do not cause each other. So I think that we need to break it into other elements and think of more tensions and variations of the tensions. My 2 pence. Promise to shut up.
Freire said that the popular classes will learn despite all the hurdles that are imposed on them. Right? And to me, looking at it from that perspective of power, right? I have the power to make the process less hurdle filled. And to me, not making the process less hurdle filled is I don't know, it's a moral dilemma, right? If I know that I can empower somebody, if I know that I can de-empower or disempower myself to allow the other person to gain a stronger foothold in participation in society, it's actually mean if I wield my power. And I think that with systems, that pretty much is the case, because we are gobbled up by the system many times, right? And one of the things that I hate about teacher educators in my country is the moment they start teaching teacher education, they think they are God. And they can mandate and abuse and what model are they setting, right? I don't know. Things to think about.
Yeah. Over the beer that we owe everybody.
And the asadito. And the asadito.
Asadito and beer, wines. Yes,
good
this
wine.
the concept of a power and the labels, and at the same time, this idea that the system of today was a revolution of yesterday, and at some point, some of that still remains and is valuable to be kept. But at the same time, yes, we cannot be stuck. Yes, so how is everything said? Who are the stakeholders in the system? And to move forward not with a romantic, poetic idea of let's break everything. Yes, I don't know. I'm getting old. Sorry. I'm far away from that idea of breaking all. Yes, but I prefer thinking more in terms of evolution. You have to say, well, with the elements we have already built, constructed as society, what is the next step? Yes, and where is that next step heading? Yes, what type of challenge is proposing? Which power is affecting in a way, or how that next step is challenging inequities, but a long, tedious, and outstanding dilemma, as you said.
Yeah.
We've got some comments in the chat box. So Gisela Laurent is here, and well, yes, she's here. She's very happy to be here listening to both of you. Well, and she mentions many structures need to be rethought and inspiring, she says. Thank you very much. It was great listening to all of you. Mariela also mentions lots of food for thought. And thanks for being here. Well, I think we have lots of comments. Thank you for being here. So such an interesting topic. Well, lots of comments. Thank you very much for all this inspiring session. It is incredible when we think about that is Friday evening, and we are quite a lot discussing about education and expanding the boundaries of teaching English. So I'm so proud of this, not only because most of us agree on this paradigm and positioning of teaching of English, but also because we do a lot of things in order to expand, frame, and to give opportunities to all the ones who not only have built up the will, but also the commitment to become teachers of English. And that is something that is really not only motivating, but inspiring, right? It is very important that we can go on, and that's why I said that at the beginning, that we can continue with these small actions, one after the other, one at the same time as the others, in order to show that it is possible, that it is not so difficult, that it takes time, but not as much time as you devote to other things, right? That are a little bit more concentrate on a different focus, I would say. So I don't know, Anna or Tato, if there is any other questions, some comments, because Florencia Conde, that is another teacher from the Teacher Training College and a former student. She says, this was so inspiring. Thank you so much. Well, is glad to read all these comments. I don't know, any other question or something else that we would like to ask these great friends and wonderful sources of knowledge, of inspiration, and something that I want to say, and I would say now that is a moment in which both of you are in silent for a while. Thank you so much, because nothing would have been possible only with knowledge. There is something else beyond that knowledge that put everything into action. And you are two examples of that. That's why you are part of Ipes Paulo Freire. That's why we have been inviting you, in the case of Marina and Gabo, to come to Tierra del Fuego in all the occasions that you would love to have you whenever you want. There is something else that moves that knowledge into something possible, reflective, constructive, and let's say from different perspective at the same time, thinking about educators more than teachers of English. So I'm so proud of this moment. Thank you so much for being here so generously.
Thank you, thank you.
I do propose a virtual clap, yes? So we can take a picture of general clapping for their generosity. I will be taking a picture right now, yes? Ana, any final word? And then Ali, yes, just
Yes.
Alicia, nuestra
The
rectora
final word
habla
is-
inglés, le vamos a poner, vamos a hacer el shifting para español, pero ella, si le dejamos el inglés, ella va con el inglés hasta el final.
Sí, absolutamente, es una alumna, muy buena alumna del CEDI, así que también nos ha acompañado en esas acciones. Nada, bueno, agradecerles a todos y a cada uno, estudiantes, colegas, dados, por seguir pensando juntos, por pensar la lengua extranjera, no como un fin, sino como un medio, como un puente, como una oportunidad, como un espacio de reflexión y de poder pensar a nuestros estudiantes como generadores de conocimiento que puedan construir con nosotros al mismo nivel que nosotros diferentes cuestiones y bueno, y seguir alimentando instancias donde los alumnos sean protagonistas, donde los estudiantes tengan esta posibilidad de interactuar con gente que tiene ganas, que quiere, que genera y que, bueno, que comparte. Así que, bueno, muchísimas gracias. Para nosotros la jornada tiene, no lo dije al principio, lo quería decir al cierre antes de pasarle la palabra a Alicia, tiene una mirada. Hoy uno de los que estaba participando preguntaba de dónde está la política. La política está en la educación es política. Nosotros estamos atravesados. Ustedes saben, el año que viene es el último año del profesorado de inglés en el Ipes Paulo Freire. Se termina, se cierra una etapa, esa etapa se cierra, y para nosotros es muy importante que se cierre en acción, que se cierre en reflexión y que se cierre generando cosas nuevas y compartiendo con nuestra comunidad. Así que bueno, muchísimas gracias a todos los presentes y bueno, Alicia, te paso la palabra para que, bueno, nos acompañes una vez más en este evento.
Bueno, primero, muchas gracias a todos y cada uno de los que estuvieron presentes en este encuentro, en este conversatorio. La verdad es que fue una jornada de presentaciones de experiencias, primero de carácter institucional e interinstitucional.
Sí,
que
ya cerramos, creo que no hay nada más.
De la mano de Eugenia fue contando,
okay,
digamos, distintas dimensiones de trabajo del profesorado de inglés, tanto en el instituto como fuera de él, en el país e incluso fuera del país. Me encantó la presentación de estudiantes, la creatividad que se puso en el despliegue, en este tipo de cosas, que siempre uno se queda, desde la formación se queda pensando cómo hacer para romper con la alienación que luego se produce cuando ingresan al sistema educativo, ¿no? Y como son los nuevos que vienen a querer cambiar el mundo con todo ese ímpetu, muchas veces los frenan, los paran, les hacen pagar el derecho de piso, ¿no? Y eso también es parte de nuestra formación y trabajo, porque son los responsables de cambiar el mundo, tal como lo plantearon ustedes, bueno, Euge, permanentemente, desde la reflexión y la praxis, que es la perspectiva freiriana, tienen que transmitir estos saberes culturales. Luego escuchamos a Gabriel y a Marina hablar de política educativa, del sistema educativo, es como recurrente pero necesario que en distintos campos se estén dando este tipo de discusiones, análisis y reflexiones que tienen que ver con el hecho educativo, el acto educativo y lo que nos sacudió a todos, que es la pandemia, ¿no? A partir de este hecho, estamos todos en esta obligación responsable de repensar el sistema como tal y el alcance del mismo, en el caso de la jornada de hoy, desde la perspectiva de la enseñanza de una lengua extranjera, pero han analizado todo el sistema, la didáctica específica, que me parece crucial en el caso de la enseñanza del inglés. Quiero decir que Tierra del Fuego también ha propiciado como garantía de derecho a la enseñanza del inglés desde el nivel inicial y en escuelas primarias, ampliamente en las escuelas públicas, cuestión que celebramos porque no se da en todas las provincias del país, así que también eso nos enorgullece porque nuestros egresados se forman para la educación primaria y para la educación secundaria. Y sí, como bien explicaba Tato, yo no hablo una palabra de inglés, aunque mi profesora del primer nivel, que fue Eugenia, siempre me reta. Tengo el orgullo de contar con estudiantes en formación y recientes egresados que son actualmente mis profesores. Y eso a mí como rectora me enorgullece, porque yo vivencio el aprendizaje del inglés desde una perspectiva didáctica muy novedosa, muy lúdica, muy específica para una comunidad de gente que está aprendiendo el idioma, tan relevante y tan significativa, que realmente nosotros nos olvidamos que estamos aprendiendo. Las clases de inglés, de las que por lo menos yo como estudiante participo, son un disfrute pleno, es un placer con cada uno de los profes que me ha tocado estar, la tuve Eugenia, la tuve Romina Irniak, lo tengo actualmente a Manu como profesor de inglés, y son un placer. Lo mismo nos pasa con el resto de las lenguas, uno va recopilando boca en boca, ¿no? ¿Qué pasa en portugués? ¿Qué pasa en italiano? ¿En el francés? Y se ve que ahí hay una coordinación, también una cabeza que impulsa esta didáctica, esta forma de enseñanza que realmente se traduce aún en un entorno tan complejo como este. Así que mis felicitaciones para todo el profesorado de inglés. Gracias nuevamente a todos los que participaron y a la presencia tan federal e internacional de todos acá. Así que felicitaciones en primer lugar a los estudiantes y también a todos los organizadores. Gracias, gracias.
Gracias, Ali. Yo dije, no es que no sabías nada de inglés, al contrario, que si seguíamos en inglés, terminabas en inglés. Mirá la fe que tengo. Perfecto, bueno. Un abrazo grande para todos, para todas. Descansen, es la hora de la cervecita. Muchas gracias por haber compartido este rato con nosotros de viernes. Sabemos lo demandados que están todos en los trabajos, en la vida, y la pandemia que a veces nos pega de frente desde lo emocional, y que hayan podido estar acá y sostenerlo hasta el final y aportando, ayudándonos a pensar. La verdad que se los agradecemos muchísimo. Un abrazo grande. Muchas gracias por estar.
Gracias. Adiós. Hasta luego.